All right, we are officially on to our last group design coding sheet. Woohoo! And this one, I don't think we're even going to find an example in all of the studies. I've screened through about 2/3 of our studies that we have, and I haven't found one yet that meets this criteria, but I'll just walk you through this coding sheet, assuming there might be a hypothetical study out there that falls under Group 5. So Group 5, remember, is going to be a clustered design study, sometimes referred to as a block design study, in which the researchers are going to randomize the study based on the teachers. So the students are still within the classrooms, and that impacts their independence. They're not independent units anymore. Now they have that additional impact of being within a classroom, being taught by a specific teacher, being influenced by their peers, all that good stuff. So Group 5 specifically is that clustered design, but there's no pre-test data. And again, this is one of those things where if researchers are going to spend all this money to train the teachers, and at this point it's usually an effectiveness trial, usually they spend the money to get that pre-test done. So we're probably not going to find a lot of these, but just in case we do, you would fill in the study name, study ID, based off of the name of the study. You would include the comparison group, so for example, treatment 1 versus control, or treatment 2 versus control, depending on what the study was measuring. You would include each measure name, completely typed out in full. You would identify the measure type or types. You would identify if the developer of the measure, if it was a standardized measure, a researcher developed measure, or if it was not stated. And then we'd go and code for the effect size. So remember, this is just going to refer to the treatment mean. We're not going to have a pre-test, so it's just going to be that one post-test mean that they give you for the treatment. This is the students per group in the treatment. So for example, the number of students in the classroom. The TXM is the number of clusters in the treatment. And remember, that's going to refer to the number of classrooms total, or the number of, sometimes they'll say the number of teachers, if it's assumed that each teacher only teaches one classroom. So thinking about what sort of level of impact does that teacher have. This is going to be the control mean. There's only going to be one, the mean or the average. This is the control N, or the number of students per group in the control group. This one I can see I obviously just cut and paste from the other page, but we have our control of M, which is the number of clusters, or the number of classrooms in the control group. And then again, remember, this row is also called the intra-cluster correlation coefficient, or the ICC. And what that's really looking at, not that many C's, what that's really looking at is the relationship based on the level of cluster. So it's usually identified as the ICC. You can sort of Google intercluster or intraclass correlation or coefficient. Sometimes it's identified as rho. Again, it's just super, super rare. So if you Google something and you find a correlation or a coefficient and you're not quite sure what it is, feel free to reach out, and I'll be glad to take a look at it if you have any questions. So that's pretty much it for this last group design video. If you find a study like this and you have any questions or any issues finding any of this data, just feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we're done with group design. We got one more video with what to do with single case design, effect sizes, but otherwise, we're done with this group design stuff.